Welcome to episode 27 of the Necronome.com. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Alien genitalia is a puzzle that we are confronted with on a daily basis. Over 35 million sci-fi fans question the appropriate location of alien genitalia. And why, in so many sci-fi movies, does alien genitalia seem to perfectly line up with human genitalia? On this episode, we'll explore that issue and more as we discuss the film Splice.
I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of this podcast you're listening to right now, and I'm pretty sure I'm at least 50% human.
And I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, I think the jury's out on you, James. I'm not sure.
What are you going to do? So today joining us is the one and only legendary Funny or Die guy, Thomas Brungardt. Thomas, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You know what? I think I have the wrong number. I was trying to get in touch with this hottie named Dren that I'm seeing tonight.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, awesome.
Oh,
okay.
I forgot to tell you I changed.
Oh, you're a boy now. Or what is your gender pronoun? This movie predates gender pronouns, right? So it's
that's pretty amazing.
It's a little bit of a gray area. Okay. So I'm Thomas. I'd like to say that I am an award-losing filmmaker and a failed musician. My Funny or Die series, Baked Alaska, you can find that now. All 7 seasons are archived on YouTube. And we have 2 specials coming out this year in lieu of an 8th season, Baked Alaska, Lost in Hawaii, and Baked Alaska, Monkey Business. So you don't have to watch them. Nobody else does, but they'll be out if you want to find them.
I actually had to watch part because somebody texted it to me. So there you go.
That was just a trailer.
I know. Oh, man. That's awesome. So how did you get into the Funny or Die thing? Like when you were making Baked Alaska, you did a Kickstarter. But like, how did it end up on Funny or Die?
It was crowdfunded, and we wanted to have it hosted by a site that was, at least reputable in the comedy community. And we reached out to Funny or Die, and they liked what we had, at least for a while there. And we hosted the first, I think, 4 or 5 seasons on Funny or Die, and then it got too difficult just from a, paperwork point of view. So we took everything to YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice platform. I have nothing but great things to say about Funny or Die.
So, as always, we let the guests pick the film. So why did you pick Splice?
I don't think we have enough time to really get into why I picked Splice. There's a lot of emotional trauma throughout my childhood. No, this movie, I've seen this movie 3.5 times. And the first time was on purpose. The second time was to show like other people. The third full time was for this, and that half time I caught like the first half on, I think, USA or TNT or TBS, one of those stations, and I remembered what it was, so I turned it off. But this movie is really close to me and James, because James, you and I were at WonderCon, I think it was 2009. And
2010, yeah.
2010. There was a panel for this movie, but they didn't screen the movie. They just showed the trailer, and then there was a full Q&A after. And that Q&A really stuck with me because I thought it was outrageous. And, not knowing at the time that the person who was talking was the director was Vincenzo Natali, who made a movie called Cube, which I'm sure you've seen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the winged serpent?
Yeah. And I love the movie Cube, so I thought, how different could this be? I'm sure this movie would be, good as well. So I watched it when it came out alone, and I felt very alone when it ended. And this movie it sticks with you, and it's stuck with me. I think about this movie, honestly, once a week. And when you think about that's like 52 times a year, I think about this movie. I don't think about my parents that much, right? Like that's so much time to be, and it's just whenever somebody brings up like a movie, they think like, oh, this movie's crazy. I always say there's nothing that's crazier to me than the movie Splice. So until you've seen that, then you can tell me other movies are crazy.
I also think about this movie a lot, even though I hadn't seen it until this week, because when we were at WonderCon, they handed out free T-shirts with Splice on it, and they gave me a large, I believe, and I'm like, okay, but where's the 3 and the X that go with the large, And so my wife wears the shirt all the fucking time. So I see this shirt at least probably once a week. So yeah, I probably think about it almost as much as you do.
Yeah, I threw my shirt away pretty immediately after watching the movie.
That's very sad because she would probably take it. But
yeah. I should have donated it to somebody. It's a good shirt. Clearly, it's held up. That's a 10-year-old shirt at this point. And
there's not even like a hole in it or anything. And I mean, she wears this thing all the time. It's nuts.
It aged better than the movie.
There you go. It aged better than I did. That's for fucking sure. Well. So, Don, had you seen this movie before this?
I don't remember seeing it before. I remember the preview. Not the previews. I remember the trailers. I remember the interviews and even the whole thing of when it came out. I actually laughed about it. I was like, holy shit. It's like Adrian Brody's in this? It's like, damn. Like, he's much more talented than I would expect to be in, a sci-fi horror movie. Nothing against sci-fi horror movies, but, comparing that to the Pianist and Summer of Sam and all those things that I saw him in as a dramatic lead or just a dramatic character. When this movie happened, I kept seeing Adrian Brody, like the guy, because I did not feel like he was acting in this movie. It just seemed like somebody said, "Hey, Adrian, we need you for a movie. Just fucking wing it."
We'll let you fucking alien. Oh, well, okay then.
Everybody's going to wing it, and eventually somebody's going to grow wings. So just go for it.
Yeah. Which is nothing against him. I mean, that's not a slight against him. It just, like, it seemed like he wasn't acting. It seemed like it was, he they let him be himself in this movie. At least from my vantage point, it didn't seem like he was trying too hard. It didn't seem as though he was trying to fake anything to make you believe like, hey, there's fucking, crazy combinations that we put together. And he seemed like a fucking scientist who was happy with the shit that he had done and then also disappointed with what he was able to do.
You know what, fun fact on, he didn't know he was in a movie.
This is like the Tom Cruise sci-fi stuff?
Yeah, this is like Tom Cruise in Interview with a Vampire. It's just, he doesn't know he's in a movie. This is just what he thinks his life is.
I just love how rather than cast a brother for him, they brought in like his stunt double so that you would know he was related to Adrian Brody in the film.
Yeah.
You get your wig looking like his hair over here, and then you just like lean in and stare a lot. People will know you're related then, And that's all I can think when I watch it. I'm like, is that his fucking stunt double? Is that where they got this guy?
Hey everybody, just look emo. Just look emo.
Well, I was saying that like this whole operation is like, one, it's a family affair. I've never seen so many scientists who are also family, but also
right?
That it's like this pop punk new metal emo scientist kind of thing where it's their own brand of science and they have to dress a certain way and act a certain way. But to go back to Adrian Brody, again, shocking he's in this because this is post him winning an Oscar.
Really?
Right? So, yeah, he won. The Pianist came out in, I think, 2004, 2005. So
holy shit, I didn't realize it was that old.
He must have like hand-picked this one, right? Because I feel like after you win an Oscar, you can pretty much pick and choose your projects.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
and I doubt this one was sitting on like a shelf somewhere that he had done before The Pianist. So this seems like something where they sought him out. They're like, Adrian, we need you to play this, and here's some money, and probably looked at him like, cool, brother, I'll take it.
Maybe he owed somebody a favor. Who knows?
Yeah,
Either way, I'm glad he did it. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to tell you a completely unrelated story really fast while we were talking about WonderCon. The best panel I ever went to in my life, and you know I live at cons. The best panel I ever went to was at that convention, and it was a kick-ass panel, and Nick Cage was there.
Can I? Can I?
Two
say
things.
Can I? Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just no. If you don't say it, I'll say it after. But you say your piece.
So, the greatest thing I've ever seen Nick Cage do is he comes out and he had laryngitis really badly, right? And the whole time he's talking and he's like, oh man, we did this, we did that. And it turns out he didn't fucking have laryngitis at all. He just decided to do it for this panel. And that in and of itself made me love Nick Cage. But secondly, the second best part of this to me, somebody asked the question, do you all come back in Kick-Ass 2? And the movie hadn't come out yet. It was coming out like the following week, right? And Nick Cage just leads it. He goes, well, not me, because I die in the film. And everyone on stage, like there were like 10 of them, right? And they were all like, oh, and it just went like silent. And Nick's like, anyway, and like just moves on. So yeah, what were you going to say?
The thing that stuck with me from the Kick-Ass panel was somebody had asked the question directly to Nick Cage. Did you grow up reading comic books? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
And he was like, oh, I learned so much of my vocabulary from comic books. And then he could have stopped there, but then he was like, words like opaque. I had never seen the word opaque before I read a comic book. And that's when I remember losing it. Like, it was the most ridiculous answer I'd ever heard at a panel.
Yeah, and then the other weird part was Clark Duke and who's the bald guy on the League?
Oh,
like they were like standing next to our chairs, just hanging out watching the shit.
It was Clark Duke, Paul Scheer, and Rob Hubel.
Yes.
And I remember pointing them out to you and saying, I wonder why Aziz Ansari isn't here. Because they were all in Human Giant together. Little did we know Aziz Ansari was about to blow up.
No shit.
And he was distancing himself from his friends.
Which is exactly what Thomas is going to do when this podcast is over today.
Hey, whatever.
All right, we can bring it back to Splice. I just really wanted to talk about Nick Cage's laryngitis because that was amazing.
That was a good day. That whole day was weird.
So, yeah.
But yeah, back to Splice. Yeah, I want to get your takes on it because, James, you messaged me and you said that you loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to know what... Don, I'm sorry that you had to watch it.
No. There was nothing wrong. For me, it was kind of like I had this discussion with James. I like, and I think we even had this discussion about Frankenstein or films that, or having a panel at Phoenix Fan Fusion this May, where we explore the idea of Frankenstein, or at least Frankenstein type stories, or films. I'm sorry, not stories, that have come up, and how many times it's been done or redone or adapted. You have Weird Science in the 80s. There was Eve of Destruction. Of course, you got Age of Ultron within the comic book universe. A lot of different ways it's done. And this one, I think it was really cool because there was that time in the late 90s and early 2000s where people were freaking out about every scientific advancement that there was. I remember Dolly the sheep was this big issue because, holy shit, we can clone animals now. And if we can clone animals, what else can we do? And then genetic engineering, you had the movie Gattaca with, Jude Law, Uma Thurman, and Ethan Hawke. Yeah, how it was this whole idea of you can create the perfect human. And how now that's actually an issue that people are worrying about with, these engineered children, where we can go ahead and take this out and put this in and change these things around to where your kid won't be susceptible to these diseases, or they have this type of hair color. And when this movie came out, there were still those debates and these ideas of what could possibly happen. So when I watched it now, and then looking back at around the same time period, it was 2009, 2010 when it came out, that we still weren't having those conversations about the ethics behind it. And I like the idea that this movie, it has this discussion about ethics. And Adrian Brody's character, when he finds out what his girlfriend is doing, the other scientist is doing, he's kind of like, no, we shouldn't do this shit. We shouldn't do it. In fact, you know what? We shouldn't be playing around with any of this stuff. We need to go ahead and get rid of this as soon as possible. But once, they realize how advanced this thing is as far as how quickly it's growing inside the fake womb that they built. The I can't remember her name to save my life.
Elsa, right?
Yeah, Elsa. Jesus, you think that I would remember that with all the frozen shit in my house?
It's the actress is Sarah Polley. It's Sarah Polley's character. Yeah.
Where Elsa's character is sitting there coming with all these excuses of, oh, I just want to see if we can do it. That was the line that stuck with me. This idea of scientific curiosity is so real that's kind of the reaction any of us would have if we were able to do this. I want to see if it's possible. And if it is, then fuck it. We'll end the experiment right there. But then you see the reality of, if I know I can do it, why don't I go ahead and see how far this can go? And that was what I liked about the film. The acting, not so much. The movie itself felt like it dragged on because they could accomplish a lot of the stuff if they cut like 30 minutes out. I really don't give a shit about them living in this apartment together and then having whatever their relationship is, and all these ways that they're trying to teach the young alien before it even has eyeballs, where you're sitting there like, okay, it looks like a fucking defeathered chicken, and and I kept sitting there like waiting for it to at least buck or crow or something, but I'm sitting there like it has these arms that look like they're going to be wings. Why doesn't it fucking flap or they come out or something?
Well, that was my question, because they never say what animal it's spliced with, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you find that out almost like, oh God, like all these cartoons and even the some of the fantasy movies that we've all watched, where you don't realize all the things that are making up whatever this mythical creature are until it has a need to fly, and all of a sudden it has wings, or it gets underwater and it has gills. And so in this film, I was honestly seeing all the things that they were able to do, or at least question other films, whether we're talking about the Harry Potter series or anything by Tolkien, where whatever they need to use, whatever abilities that they have, they're not able to use it until it's absolutely necessary. Like Gandalf apparently can summon eagles and birds, but says, fuck it, I'm going to wait until the end of the series, and then we'll fly on these birds to get to this place. There's an
explanation for that, though. There's
no, that is not good enough.
I'm not a Tolkien apologist, but I can agree that there are reasons why they couldn't fly there in the first book.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked it, because since the child is just growing, she might not know that she has these things, and then as her body reacts to stress, they come out. Like the gills, she's drowning, the wings come out when she gets pushed off a roof.
Is that animal instinct, though? Is that like survival? A survival? Because I feel like an animal would know all these things. Like certain animals know that they can fly immediately, right? Like I don't know that her figuring it out that way is in line with her being crossbred with an animal.
I mean, maybe she has the same powers as Jack in The Incredibles, and they just come out whenever the fuck they feel like it.
Well, no, my problem is that the scientists that are splicing all these animals, wouldn't they know what it's able to do? Because the thing that pissed me off was, well, it looks like that might be a tumor or something. We're not sure. I'm not sure. Right. But I'm thinking, like, wouldn't you fucking know if the thing had gills? Or, as far as like the things that you took out and put in, if you're scientifically engineering this thing, you would know at least, or you'd at least have an idea of what's there, because they had an idea of like the stinger and the venom that it had. Yeah. So why not anything else?
Well, I feel like the thing they spliced it with is that pink goo that they make chicken nuggets out of in YouTube videos.
Christ.
So, so there'd be a little bird left over, and then, some of the fish sandwich got in there. So, I think that's where everything came from, and that's why they don't know.
One thing that I
well, this isn't like The Fly. This isn't like The Fly, where Jeff Goldblum's character climbs into the machine and then a fly, gets in there and fucks up his whole experiment. They know what they're putting in.
Right.
That's what was frustrating to me.
Well, one thing I wrote between like the not knowing what animal like attributes it would have and the changing of gender later on was like, didn't they read any of the research that InGen did on Isla Sorna or Isla Nublar? Because to me, this movie is a spiritual successor to Jurassic Park. It's the same DNA thing as Jurassic Park, only they're just much less aware of what they've put into this thing.
You know, it's funny you say that because
science.
I kept quoting Goldblum. I was like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know, so yeah.
They didn't stop to think if they should. Well, they did, though, because I wrote that down, too. The whole movie, Adrian Brody's like, you need to stop doing this until it becomes beneficial to him later on when he has, you know, an attraction to it.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, hang on. We can fuck this thing?
Wait a minute.
Okay,
you didn't tell me we could fuck this thing, yeah.
That sounds like one of those weird scientific questions where, you know, can you or can you not? and then dealing with that ethical decision of, you know, the idea that he has the discussion he has with Elsa's character about, you know, we can't have an attachment to our subjects. We're supposed to watch, and then 30 minutes later, he's fucking it.
Right? And I actually find it creepier.
He
fucks it because it reminds him of Elsa.
No, like, I thought it was creepy.
That's
because
somehow creepier to me.
They
like if he was just like
a child.
It's like being attracted to your partner's like sibling. Like, oh, this is you, but much younger.
If he was like, oh man, this crazy thing wants to fuck me, I'm gonna do it because it's an alien. I find that less weird than wanting to fuck something because it reminds you of your girlfriend. That's
I feel like
weird.
they had to justify him, like the act of him doing it, to make it more relatable to the viewer. Like, oh, it has eyes that he is attracted to.
All right, maybe I'm just weird and I just want to fuck an alien. Captain Kirk gave me that.
I read that the original script for the film is much more dark than the actual movie, which is crazy to me because how much darker could it really get? So there was probably some weird like alien sex obsession going on.
Sweet. Sounds crazy.
Let's make that movie.
I think honestly, it has been made.
Yeah, right. If I was going to make a movie from this, I would literally start with the last like 20 minutes and the entire thing would be an army of those things and somebody has to stop them on their own. Like, I think that would be amazing. But yeah, anyway, so getting back towards the beginning, what themes like really stuck out to you? Like what social commentary made you think this is the movie we got to do, you know?
So like Don was saying, there's so much going on as far as genetic testing and testing on humans, and even like other stuff like Elsa's motherly instinct and motherly love towards her creation because it's her DNA and all that. But even throughout the whole movie, I kept wondering how much of the commentary that was written into the movie was just by accident, right? Like how much of it was intentional and how much of it is just more relevant now because of what's happened in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I remember vividly that panel with the director, and it stuck with me because his answers were so, like, crazy. Like, they were so silly to me, what he would say, because there was a question like, oh, why did you choose to make a movie about genetic research? And his answer was, oh, I've always liked science. Like, he wasn't trying to, like, send a message. So it was hard for me to connect to it in that way, like, knowing the filmmaker's intent was, he likes science. The same way that like they're like, oh, how did you name the creature Dren? And he was like, it's just the word nerd backwards. Like that was the level of thought that was put into the script. So I don't know how much of it was intentional. Not to say that there's nothing there, because there's so much going on in the movie, which is why I wanted you guys to talk about it, because I feel like there's a lot of themes that you can really pull from and talk about. What did you think? What did you guys think?
Well, I mean, I think that happens a lot in movies where you know, as they age, we look at it through a different lens. So, like, I'm looking at it through my life experiences, and Don's looking at it through his, and whoever else, you know? And I don't know if Don's ever fucked an alien. He hasn't told me. But, you know, I haven't. So, oh, no, that's not where I was going with this.
No.
No, but really, like, I feel like horror especially is one of those things that people just ignored for so long. It was always, that's a horror movie, you know, that now it's more common to break it down and think about what they were trying to say. And I do feel that a lot of it's non-intentional, but I feel like, your core beliefs always influence your writing. And so you're going to send messages whether you mean to or not. And then the core beliefs of the person watching is always going to send something. So they're going to find shit that you're like, that's not even in there. What are you talking about? You know?
Right.
So, yeah. But to go to your question of what we thought of the movie overall, I mean, I think for me, the last 20 minutes is so great that it overshadows the dragging at the beginning.
Yes.
I absolutely love the end, and I wish there was more of it. It is a lot of give and take as far as that doesn't make any fucking sense, but I'm okay with it for this movie.
Well, there's so much like written into it to give it body and to give it time. And I feel like there's certain, like what Don was saying, there's so many plot points that aren't necessary. Like the whole conflict with like the corporate aspect of, we don't want you to make a human hybrid. We want you to keep, harvesting what you've already done. It was completely unnecessary. It doesn't matter whether or not like that happens, because even if the company is like, you can keep making what you're making, the story of the movie is going to stay the same. They're going to have the same problems and the same issues. And it doesn't really add anything, right? Like, it's just fluff.
Here's what it adds from a writing point of view for myself is it gives you a reason to go out into the middle of fucking nowhere instead of being in the lab, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, fair.
And it lowers the security at that point. Okay. So like you couldn't have that last battle in a lab. Like it would be so different that I don't know it would be as good.
Yeah, I don't think Adrian Brody would have fucked the alien at work, because clearly.
I don't know.
I don't think HR would be okay with that. So
he was pretty into it. He might have still done it.
They had cameras everywhere except the one lab that they were working in.
Yeah, in the basement.
in the basement where you
that no one ever goes to. Oh, look, someone's here.
The thing about this movie is that it always has a device. We don't have anywhere to go. Oh, I have a cabin you don't know about, right? Like, oh, we're going to drown this thing. Oh, it has gills. Like, there's always a reason, or always like an escape from the inevitable, because they just write something in it. And I think it was all the director trying to, have callbacks to horror flicks that he liked. Like, oh, the gills, it's the thing, or the wings, For me, when I saw the wings, I was like, oh shit, this is just the end of Jeepers Creepers 2. I don't know if you saw that movie.
I have, yes.
Yeah, but it's just like, there's all these things that keep the story going when there's so much else that could have been talked about. Not to say that there isn't a lot already going on, but yeah.
But so then the other thing that it does by moving them out to the farm is we bring in Elsa's backstory. And there's basically a direct comparison between how her mother treated her and how she's treating this thing that's basically her kid, right?
Yeah.
She's abusive, but not in the same way. And you wouldn't get that in the lab either. So I could go either way on that. I think a full lab movie might have actually been more boring because I don't like the lab scenes, but maybe that's me. But overall, yeah, go ahead.
It needed a change of location, definitely. But for what you were saying about Elsa and her mom, that relationship, at the beginning of the movie, Elsa didn't even want children. Like, that was Adrian Brody's whole thing, was like, we need a bigger place because I want to have kids. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. And then the rest of the movie, she's all about taking care of this thing she created. So,
right.
Yeah, I just felt that.
Well, but she didn't want to carry it. She didn't want it destroying her. She was fine having kids as long as someone else did it. Because she says, when they figure out males being pregnant, then we'll do it. Because she's fine with it. She just doesn't want to fuck up her amazing body. No, I don't know. But she doesn't want that part of it. And so she gets to skip that and go straight into the other part. But what I love about what they did with her is, she literally says she's getting hard to control. And she only wants a child as long as it's what she expects of having a child. Right. As soon as there's any fucking problem with it, like it tries to kill you, or its stinger is too long, or whatever else I deal with every day with a 5-year-old, she doesn't want to deal with those aspects. As soon as it's hard, she wants out again.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she, goes to extremes, maiming
Yeah, most
we've
people
all thought about it.
most people that I know haven't performed surgery on their child, but I mean, I guess it's possible. What about you, Don? Have you ever performed surgery on your daughter?
Other than pulling teeth, as they're getting loose and having to do that stuff.
I was going to say, was it needed?
It was just hey, my tooth is loose. All right, come here. Boom, take it out. Other than that, no, because I saw how mortified my daughter was when my wife cut her hair. That was one of those moments where, and I thought about stuff like that as I was watching this film, because you see this moment where Elsa cuts Dren's tail because, hey, why don't we just go ahead and maim this thing, this thing that I'm raising to be my child, or raising as a child, I'm nurturing, I'm doing all this great stuff, and I get pissed off, and my solution is go ahead and cut off her tail. I remember my daughter getting her haircut, and her whole thing was, when I asked her, I was like, oh, well, do you like your hair? She's like, it'll grow back. And I was like, but do you like it? It'll grow back. It's like, but sweetie, do you like your hair? It'll grow back. And so when she cut Dren's tail, I'm sitting there like, that motherfucker's going to grow back. I know how these movies go. She's going to be pissed off at you for cutting her tail, and you're fucked. But yeah, it just seems such she becomes that abusive mother or abusive parent that she had already had experience with. And it seems like, all I'm doing is completing that circle, or at least continuing on that path that my parents had. And I'm just going to be an abusive shit as well. I don't care about, the well-being of this child. I need to teach them a lesson. And it's kind of that same argument that people unfortunately still have today, which is, hey, my parents hit me, so it's okay, and I'm okay. I should be able to hit my kids. And you can't convince them all of that, hey, this probably isn't best for your kids to go around hitting them because they don't know why. Just like Dren, I'm sure, didn't fully understand why her mother is physically harming her.
Yeah, definitely.
And just the fear, because she's not auditory, or she can't speak, but it's that weird sensation of, the person that you trust, the person that's taking care of you, the person that's nurturing you, is now the person who's violating you.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting about Elsa's character is that at the beginning of the movie, she's much more like childish. And there's points where Adrian Brody's like, I can't play with you right now. Like, you need to focus and take care of what you need to do. And then the minute that creature is born, it's that whole thing of like, she thinks it's cute and, it's a face only a mother could love kind of thing. And you watch her just turn into this person that she becomes a monster in her own right. The way she treats the Dren later on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I say the whole thing about Frankenstein, because, it's not the creature that's the problem, it's the creator. And, just that same rejection that Dr. Frankenstein has with the monster, with the creation, you see here where, you see a better relationship develop because, they create it by accident. And it's kind of like, well, I'm sorry. They're successful by accident. And now it's about what can we learn from this being? Because I don't want to call her a monster. Because she doesn't do anything, and I'm emphasizing she doesn't do anything violent or abusive, because it's not in her nature, and that becomes one of those things that we start to question: is it in our nature to be good, or do we respond to negative or positive treatment in a positive or negative way? Can you still be a good person or a good being based off of how you're raised, or is it just innate?
The whole nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, did you find it interesting that the way they portrayed Dren as a female and then as a male?
Oh yeah,
Like,
I guess more gentle, but as far as the male, it was just overly aggressive. Well, I shouldn't say overly aggressive. It was hyper aggressive.
right. Like it was very aggressive. Like even when like they had the little things in the tank, Ginger and Fred, and then when Ginger became a boy, they just became very aggressive. Like it was portrayed that the male of the species is just very violent, right?
Can I just say how much I would have rather they named them Sid and Nancy? Like Fred and Ginger is such an outdated reference. And then, Sid and Nancy would at least be funny. But yeah. Okay,
Like,
so I have a sick sense of humor. Whatever.
No, I like that one.
Jesus.
You could do any. You could do any number.
Kurt and Courtney?
I could do
Why don't you go with Ralph and oh Jesus.
Oh, see, that's outdated too.
No Ralph and Alice.
Nobody's been named Ralph in 50 years.
Ralph is something you do after you eat too much.
There's someone listening to this podcast named Ralph, and you just offended them.
We lost.
That's Rafe. That's different.
And if the grocery store Ralph's ever wants to sponsor the podcast, I think I just blew it for him.
Damn it!
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're still in the good graces. Hey, I love Ralph's.
This is just like the time Popeyes wouldn't be our sponsor.
I know, because they ran out of those sandwiches.
Who the fuck sells that much shit? And then they're like, we didn't think to make more.
I had one of those sandwiches.
Did you enjoy it?
It was fine.
I hate you both. That's the best chicken sandwich ever.
Toy Story 2 was okay. Oh man.
Yeah, it kind of was.
So let's get back to the mom really fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would have liked more of this flashback to when she was younger. You get this scene where he walks into the bedroom and he's like, I thought you said your mom left it the way that it was. And she's like, she did. and then you get a couple little flashes here and there. I would have liked more. I would have liked more of a comparison between the two as well, because since she's not abusing her the same way, I would like to see how she didn't make that connection, But that's me. I don't know.
Was there even a mom? Was it like a Norman Bates thing? Or was it like, did you want it to be like the relationship in Carrie?
Wouldn't that be great? Like she just like grew up on her own on this farm and imagined a mom.
I think they made too much of like Adrian Brody's family, like introducing his brother. They made like them co-lead characters, him and Elsa.
I think
it should have just been Elsa.
And I think it's to make you care when he dies, but you could do that with anybody. And I didn't care. So fail.
Well, yeah, but, once you watch him fuck an alien, it's hard to come back from that. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean his brother though.
Like, the brother. Yeah, I completely forgot the brother was there and then
exactly
died.
My point. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's why they did it, to make you care when the brother's offed, but it didn't do anything for me. I was like, okay, big deal. Maybe you shouldn't have been out here, buddy.
Elsa's relationship with her mom would have been a good, like, jumping point at least.
Yeah. I think that they could have done more with that, and they didn't. So, let's see here. So the Fred and Ginger scene, when it hits, that was my second favorite scene by far. I mean, clearly I love the end, but like, even knowing it was coming, because it's, it's horror, it's built up, you know what's coming. But like, right. It was so great. Just the way that, I don't know, I would love to have been there and seen that shit live. Just all those people in the audience panicking and trying to get the fuck out of there. And the way the aquarium crashes. And yeah, it's great. The whole thing.
Yeah, but you and I would have been sitting there laughing.
Yeah.
Knowing the two of us. Holy shit, that was hilarious.
I'd be like, hang on, I got to video this.
I would have been making Gallagher jokes the whole time.
God, you and my wife both, because she says like front row.
Or like Blue Man Group, they give you ponchos. Yeah. But like even the crowd at that event was crazy. Like there was a lack of diversity in this movie, and they make no effort to make it any more like diverse than it is. It's just, here's a company of white people for white people. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like the whole movie.
And these are our donors. They're also all white people. You know why that is? Hey, Don, if I went up to a black man and I said, hey, I want to splice an alien with fucking human DNA, what would he say to me?
Get the fuck out of my face.
That's why they were all white.
No, you have
Wait, let me continue. That's some white people shit.
You have to do the whole thing. You walk up, you say, hi, I'm from the Nucleic Exchange Research and Development Group, or NERD. And I'd like to splice your DNA with a monkey or a penguin or a duck. Like, you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, it's crazy. Like, who are the people donating their DNA to that study? Because they had, like, that was the other question I had. Were all of the vials of human DNA Elsa's, or were there actually some of people that donated it?
There were some people.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed like they had DNA on, at least on hand, and Elsa just wanted to use hers.
Wouldn't it be great, though, if she had been just throwing them away and putting hers up there?
Yeah,
just like this whole fucking time.
That's like some extra nefarious type of work that's going to be involved for that one. Like, this is definitely going to. I mean, was she thinking ahead, so far ahead to where she's kind of like, you know what? If this works out, it's my DNA, so then I can claim ownership of whatever it is, and then the nerd has to pay me for the rights for this. Because I mean, that's what happens at the end. Is, I'm sorry to skip ahead, but at the end, there's, she's pregnant by, I guess, what we would call, I guess, still Dren, but she's pregnant with it. I guess you could believe that it's Dren's baby that's inside of her, or Dren's pod, or whatever it would be. And there is that deal that's being made between her and the company, which is, don't say a fucking word about any of this stuff, but also, hey, we want the rights.
Right. And how are they letting that baby come to term inside of her? Because the first iteration of Dren gestated and was born within like days, it felt like.
Right.
Maybe. So how long has this baby been inside of her? And shouldn't they just cut it out, because it's going to tear her apart from the inside out?
That was my thing. What are you cutting a deal for? You're never going to see this fucking money. You are fucked.
Although her and Adrian Brody did have sex earlier in the film, so is it a chance that it could be his baby?
In that situation, you need to have that money fast.
Well, they would have done like an ultrasound, right? Like,
probably. But I think with her, it was an issue if she didn't want to. So maybe she took precautions to make sure she wouldn't get pregnant by him. And then maybe Dren's super sperm or whatever it was cracked through the birth control or diaphragm or whatever she happened, IUD, whatever she happened to be using to actually impregnate her.
I was going to say, she struck me as somebody who would have an IUD. Just like her demeanor and her unwillingness to carry a baby. Like, no chances are being taken on her end.
Yeah.
All defenses are up.
The wall has been built.
So Dren goes from a female to a male, becomes super aggressive, slaughters all the guys around, and rapes Elsa.
Can I say that, did you find it interesting when male Dren spoke? Not how crazy the line was, because the line that Dren speaks is ridiculous, but the fact that they gave the male version a voice while the female one was unable to speak.
I thought that was weird, but it also speaks volumes to me. So I don't know. Yeah. But so I know I'm supposed to feel bad for Elsa because she's being raped, but my reaction instead was, you forced this on other creatures. Like you forced life, right? And so it, yeah, exactly. And I've never said that about a rape scene ever before. But in this situation, I was like, this is what you did. You took two DNA samples and forced them into life. So I don't know.
So in that scene, I was confused, and I've been confused about this for 10 years. Did male Dren have a penis? And if the answer is no, was she then raped by the tail? And how did the tail impregnate her? And it's, kind of poetic, the creature raping Elsa with the thing that was maimed, right? But is that what happened? Because I still don't know.
Well, no, because when the tail was cut, it grew back as a stinger or with the venom.
Yeah,
right.
So it stayed the same with female Dren. But yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it, because one, you don't
it could have
see
evolved.
But my question is, if Adrian Brody's character has sex with Dren while she's still female, it's at least hinted that she has a vagina. So if she does go through this transition as far as the sex organs, and actually does go from female to male, is pretty believable that she would have grown a penis.
Maybe it comes out like the wings, like the way the wings just like rip through when they need to. Maybe
like
it's like that.
Like Here Comes
the Red Rocket.
Yeah, the Red Rocket. Yeah.
We don't need to know your Pornhub searches, buddy.
Wow.
So
I'm quoting South Park, my friend.
It must have like some kind of concealed like penis, because there was definite thrusting in that scene.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's crazy. But then you go back to Adrian's sex scene, and it's aggressive as well, right? But in a different way. And
he's much more compliant. Yes, that's
absolutely,
true.
Yeah. And I definitely wouldn't say he got raped. But so then his girlfriend comes in. Elsa's standing there watching this, horrified, turns and runs away. That moment where he goes back to the house and he has to walk into the kitchen and he's just like standing there. I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, I know this is supposed to be a super serious moment, but I've had some like, what the fuck do you say to your girlfriend in this moment, right? I've had those moments, but holy fucking shit. Like,
I love that he turns it around on her and he's like, this is what you wanted.
Such a guy thing to do.
We did it.
There you go, man. You made it. It's real. Let me tell you, it feels great.
The first time I saw it, I thought, oh, is this thing going to get pregnant with Adrian Brody's baby, right? Because that you would think that might happen, but obviously it didn't happen because it became a man. But yeah, that whole scene when he walks into that apartment, you're like, oh, this is going to be a conversation.
And then I was so disappointed because she's just like, no, don't. And I'm like, no, continue. I really want to hear this. Man, I would love to hear that moment. But
what are you going to believe? Do? Me or your lying eyes, Elsa?
I think I would just fuck your alien child. My God.
Well, that's the other thing. So
that was the conversation I was waiting on.
Adrian Brody is the rapist in this situation, because that creature is only a couple weeks old. That makes it even worse.
Definitely underage.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it's creepy all around, because in all honesty, when we look at it, it is Elsa's DNA that's being used, but they both raised this thing from from a fetus. So they're, aside from like the ethical things, the ethical issues with scientific testing and the experiment that they're doing, but the idea that, hey, I know technically I'm your stepdad. it's just creepy all around, because you would think like, I shouldn't do this for many reasons.
Right?
Is that part of the social commentary of it, where, the idea is someday a scientist is going to make a human animal hybrid for, research and, science reasons, but somebody's going to want to fuck that thing. So is that just...
I think that's absolutely social commentary, and I think that's absolutely true. You look at anything with Star Trek, and we all say the holodeck is for porn, because let's face it, maybe I'm a sex crazed maniac. I don't know, but that's my first thought when I was a kid watching this, teenager. I was like, that's what I would do. I'd make hot chicks in the holodeck, right? And even Will Wheaton's talked about it. So I don't see any difference there. I think that's inevitable. If this happens, somebody would want to fuck it.
It's like that scene in District 9 where there's that brothel of aliens and people are going to fuck the aliens. It's the same idea, right? Like,
of course.
Well, yeah, even Alien Nation, there was that idea of, all these the movie or the TV show. I can't remember which one it appeared in, but there were the alien prostitutes because they knew that human beings were wanting to have sex with them. Right. And then it created this whole thing where they realized, their genitalia lined up in a different way to where the aliens themselves, which is always a weird thing when we talk about aliens or these experimentations that like in this film. Why is it the genitalia apparently lines up perfectly with human genitalia? But there's some movies
in this one, there's some explanation for that.
I think that's for the viewer's benefit, right? Because if, Adrian Brody turned her around and fucked her between the shoulder blades, you'd be like, this is a little bit different.
So you have seen Alien Nation then?
Oh my God!
Because that's apparently where their sexual organs are.
Is it really? Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's amazing.
It's like the upper spine, but it's in between the shoulders. And I remember clearly on the TV show version, one of the main character was on a date with his alien girlfriend, or at least an alien that was attracted to him, and he put his arm around her, or put his arm on her back, and she started to quiver, and he was like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" So, "Oh, well, you just touched me in one of my erogenous zones."
Oh boy!
And as a kid, I'm like, "What the fuck is an erogenous zone?" Went to the dictionary, and was like, "Holy shit! All right, I'm gonna keep watching this show."
This alien's always asking me to scratch her back. I don't get it.
Yeah.
No, honestly, honey, I was just giving her a back rub. But... Man.
You forgot to shave your back again.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Oh, boy. So,
but
what other parts of this?
Back to alien sex.
Which is different than the robot sex I talked about in the Terminator episode. But yes, go ahead.
You know what? I can't stop thinking about the erogenous zone on the back. I lost my train of thought.
John, you check it out. It's probably somewhere on YouTube now, because I think it was only 1 or 2 seasons. But yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking that there's so many movies where having sex with an alien is normal and it's not strange like it is in a horror film. Like Superman is an alien, right? And that's not weird that he's having sex with Lois Lane.
That's a good point.
He's Superman.
Just a thought. Just because he looks like a human makes it okay.
Well, even Thor having sex with whatever her name is, with
Natalie Portman.
Yeah. Totally normal, right? He's fine. It's not weird.
But Dren looks different enough. Because the way they stretch her eyes out is... Can we talk about the CGI in this movie?
Yes, go right ahead.
Because I remember seeing it and being, impressed with how well they did with the budget they had. But at times it's just really distracting. Like they give so many different traits to Dren, it just becomes so comically fake.
Right.
It took me out of it the first time I watched it. Like, oh, this is just kind of cartoonish now.
Like the chicken wing arms, or when she actually becomes a child, and it's even weirder.
When she
even
becomes
her
a child,
legs
and her arms come out, but even when she becomes a man, it's distracting because the face changes and it's much more, gruff, obviously, and masculine.
Right.
But I felt like it didn't need that. Like it took me out of it. Like, oh, I'm now realizing that this person has become a man, and then it speaks. But I felt bad for the actress who played Dren because she's probably a very beautiful girl, and this was going to be her big break. And
she's a French model, actually.
Oh, is she?
Delphine Chignac. There you go, James.
There you
go. So for her to be like, oh, I want my friends and family to see this, and then see the end product, it must have been very strange for a lot of her, acquaintances to see her that way.
Can you imagine how weird that would be? Like, your legs are totally different, your head's totally different, but here's my tits.
Right. Like, is that the one thing they didn't change?
Yeah. They're just
her
like,
torso
oh, no,
was like the only thing
those
that
are
was
great.
different.
Here you go. So odd.
Was that the casting call? We need somebody with wider set eyes and a nice pair of breasts.
Maybe.
Fair enough.
I was left out of it, so I'm not positive.
It follows in line with every other like horror trope.
Right?
Which there are so many in this movie. I think they say the line, "What's the worst that could happen?" 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, Adrian says it early, and then it's either the last or really close to the last line.
No, it's definitely the last line, because then she just like looks out of a dystopian
Oh, that's
window.
right. Yep, and then she's staring out the window with her good friend.
Yeah, the person she's been combating with this whole movie.
Who's now the only one who cares about her.
Because she cut a check.
She's a mother figure. Isn't that interesting?
Wouldn't it be crazy if that was her mom?
That would be fantastic.
What a plot twist.
So I want to talk about the Dren the boy, Dren the man, whatever you want to call him here.
Can we go around and just do our best Dren the boy impression?
You go right ahead, and we'll just tell yours the best.
Oh no, it's okay.
But no, so you have their boss, Adrian Brody, and Sarah Pauli's boss. And this guy, I feel bad for him. Like somehow he's like the villain. Right? Yeah, somehow he's the villain, and all he wanted to do was like have people show up to work and do what they're supposed to do.
But he didn't understand the work.
Right?
He didn't understand what they were doing. And I liked that character because he was the guy from Cube.
Oh, really?
He was the protagonist in Cube, yeah. So I was like, I like this character. Then I didn't like the character because it's a poorly written character, but I felt like an affinity for him immediately because I recognized him.
But so then he shows up and he gets out of the car and he's like, I need to meet it. Let me see it. Let me see what you've been hiding up here. And they're like, it's dead because Dren has passed away and they buried her. And then Dren just breaks out of the grave as a boy now and flies around, grabs this dude and just fucking slaughters him instantly. Right? Like, this guy has only been in this movie for this moment. And I feel it's still under-delivered. Like we hear it, and then we see the aftermath, but I would have rather seen him, like, hanging upside down screaming, and then his head fucking explode when it hits shit. You know, I feel like they really missed an opportunity there. And I don't know. That's just weird to me that you make all this to just not show the kill, really.
You wanted more grand death scenes. You wanted spectacle.
Yeah. Who doesn't, you know? But yeah, so then it also kills Adrian Brody's stunt double brother. and it's so lackluster that Thomas didn't even remember it. And keep in mind, he has seen the movie 3.5 times, everyone.
3.5 times. So
that's
and I feel like that character was not only an afterthought, but also just like the lighting in those scenes is so bad. That at a certain point, I didn't even know who was being killed. You know what I mean? Like it's just hard to see. And I felt like that was compensating for like we don't know if the CGI is going to be any good, so let's just really underlight this.
So
and I think that's why the death scenes are so short, because they're like we'll film it, we'll see how it turns out.
Then we have this weird shit where they pull Adrian Brody underwater and then he comes back out and he's fine. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, that was weird.
What a waste. Like, why is this even in here? And then, of course, there's the rape scene, and then Adrian shows up and he's got his big like spear-like object and he rams it through Dren's chest. Through the back, through the erogenous zone. No. Straight through the shoulder blades, if you will.
He wanted to hit it one more time.
That's right.
One more time.
With his giant stick. And then it just fucks him up. And I think that's great. And maybe I shouldn't celebrate Adrian Brody's death, but I thought it was pretty good.
The death really bummed me out because it every time I see it, it reminds me of the way Steve Irwin died.
Oh,
no, that's what I thought of as well.
Way to bring the show down.
I'm just saying that to me,
I will admit when I saw it, I literally went, crikey. But
Wait, side note. I was in the field. I was in the Army on a field exercise, and we're all like digging, our sleeping holes or whatever the stupid shit was that they had us doing that day. And one of the TAC officers comes over and he's like, hey man, and he talking to another guy. It's like there was a spider or something, and he crushed it with his the e-tool. And what was weird is like it made this loud popping noise when he smashed it, on the dirt. And the other tech officer looks at him and is like, "Who the fuck do you think you are? The crocodile hunter?" And the other guy, I can't remember which one said it, but the other one's like, "Why the fuck you got to bring that up, man? He just got killed by a fish." And my first thought there, because we had no access to TV or anything while we were in the middle of this training thing. And these guys had just come back off of his shift. He's like, "Yeah, man, he just got killed by a fish, a fucking fish. He's been fucking around with those crocodiles all this time. He gets killed by a fucking fish." And then everybody I was with, we look around, it's like, the fucking crocodile hunter is dead? The fuck is and so the rest of our day, we were thinking about, man, crikey, that's some bullshit. But yeah, so now I'm not going to unsee the manta ray or the spiky scene with Dren now.
Yeah, you really can't. And I don't know if that spike is its penis or not, but man, it really fucked him.
Oh boy.
Thank you. Let me talk about the most disturbing death in this movie.
Can I guess?
The plot?
It's the cat.
The cat.
Okay, so the first time...
Oh, yeah, I forgot you're a cat person.
When Elsa comes and Dren's been taking care of this cat that she found, and I love the scene when she gets the cat. I'm going in totally the wrong order here. But, she gets the cat. She looks like she's attacking it, and then instead she's cuddling with it. And the cat basically becomes her pet. And then Elsa shows up, and she's like, "You can't have that. You could get sick." And I'm like, she's had the cat for like 2 days. So that's like 80% of her life. What the fuck are you doing? And she takes the cat away. And I was so mad at Elsa at that point. I was like, I hope you fucking die, bitch. But then she brings the cat back. And Dren's just like, "Oh, yeah?" And just stabs this fucking cat with that stinger tail. And the cat dies instantly. 2 things I like about this. 1, it's the death I cared the most about. Like, that's how shitty the writing was, that I only cared about the cat. And 2, it's set up that the stinger can kill you instantly. And I love that. And so then, of course, when Adrian dies, I'm like, yeah, I've seen this kind of death before, buddy. No. No, but it really does. It sets it up that can happen. And so when it shoots him in the heart like that, it's a great bringing it back around.
But that's the way it always kills somebody, like this quick, like whip of the tail.
Yeah.
And there's so many scenes where Dren is like cocking back the tail, waiting to strike. And nothing's going to happen because that's not how Dren attacks people. Right? It's not going to be a quick thing. So it kind of writes off all of the suspense of wondering whether or not she's going to attack someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what was the animal that Dren ate outside the cabin?
It was a rabbit.
It was a rabbit. Okay. Yeah. I cared about the rabbit too.
I only know that because Elsa claims that she's a vegetarian.
Oh, and then he's like, "Oh, you."
And then Adrian's like, "Oh, is rabbit a vegetable now?"
Yeah.
But I love it. That is probably my favorite shot in the film. When she turns and her mouth is all bloody and she's got that big smile. That's a great shot.
She's just like a pig in shit enjoying her rabbit dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's like any child who's just captured a rabbit and eaten it raw. Just happy, So... Do you guys have anything else you want to say about this film?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, go for it. Is it the credits?
It's when it says filmed in Canada and then it ends. No, there's a scene like when they're trying to figure out how to make Dren, and Adrian Brody turns off the punk music and he puts on classical music, and there's this whole splicing montage.
Oh god.
It's like 50 seconds long of the computer buffering and seeing whether or not these things work. It's like, how does the computer know whether or not it's spliced appropriately? And just it's to me, it's the best scene in the movie because there was some kid in an editing studio who was just like, I'm going to make this the best buffering montage people have ever seen. And it goes on forever.
And you did it, kid. Good job.
They're sitting there like dancing, and then they're like eating Chinese food or doing a crossword like to show the passing of time. It's just so silly.
Which is weird because
the rest of the movie.
It's really odd that you say that because Senate Republicans did all of that during the impeachment trial as well. So crossword puzzles, Chinese food. It's exciting.
Fidget spinners.
Yeah. Sleeping. Anyway, so
I feel like we haven't talked that much though about the genetic testing of it all and testing on humans. How it's just very kind of cavalier in this movie. Like it's just accepted that this is what they're doing, and you would expect more protests or more like issues with it, right?
Yeah, because they go straight into, oh well, the only thing left now is human trials. We should do something to figure out what we can, what else we can do to because I think they were trying to come up with cure for Alzheimer's, or they were trying to come up with a protein that they could use for a bunch of different diseases. But for yeah, it just seemed like this, and it was great because I just watched the Netflix series or docuseries Pandemic, where they talked about all these tests that they would need to do in order to create a vaccine that would basically eradicate the flu viruses or prevent any pandemics from taking place. And some of the dialogue that was used in the film was pretty similar to what these scientists were saying, which is, hey, we want to be able to test it, but we can't get the approval here. And we really need money to get the testing done. And we need support. We need all, and just talking about how at least testing itself when it came to, either genetic testing or, basically splicing for them, but genetic testing and come up with ways for disease prevention, it's been undercut because there's not as much money for it in the public sphere. So you have to go to private companies or get grants in order to perform your scientific testing that can actually help people out. And so it just talks about that sad part of scientific studies, which is you don't have the money, it's not getting done. So somebody might have a really good idea, but if you don't have the money, you don't have the support, you don't have the resources, you can't get shit done. And I find it weird that with this being a business, with pharmaceutical business and it's doing all the testing and stuff, that they're able to use the equipment however the hell they see fit. Despite all these other scientists being around, no one raises a question like, hey, there's a fucking fetus that's growing in the other room. Do you guys know anything about that? Just because there would have been so many people that would have immediately probably stopped it from happening or reported back to the higher ups and said, hey, Clive and Elsa are doing some shit that's not that's not authorized. Even if they happen to be the lead scientists there, I'm sure that the owners of Nerd would not want something like, some weird scientific study to be taking place there to where they can be found liable, because, that would be one of the reasons why they control the study. If you guys do some shit, we want the credit if it works. But if it doesn't, and it leads to, a pandemic or whatever, we'll be held responsible. So you need to run this by us. Which again, it's a weird thing to go. It's a cool thing as far as the devices of, we create this, and now we have to get it outside of this building to where we can, grow it some more or raise it or whatever. But it's still just one of those weird things of it doesn't fit with the whole aspect of scientific oversight and ethics.
Yeah.
Because what if they created a zombie? What were they going to do then?
Double tap.
Boo.
Boo.
Speaking of zombies.
They were going to fuck it, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, you're going to reanimate it. The whole thing when Elsa, and this is, early on with the fetus thing, when Elsa gets bitten by it, that took me in a completely different direction, because I'm expecting that at that moment, oh shit, she's got some virus that she's going to carry on inside of her body or
that would have been better. Yeah.
Because it was a weird way to approach it, because it looked as though from the damage that was done to her arm, at least the injuries that she had on her arm, it looked as though an octopus had sucked on her arm, because she had these round lesions that were there. it didn't look like bite marks. It didn't look as though, the teeth from whatever this was had gotten to her. It was just a weird pattern on her arm of these circles where you kind of question, like, oh, she's been bitten by this strange being inside of this uterus, and something's going to happen to her.
I hate when that happens.
It goes nowhere. That's the thing that, other than her putting her arm in a sling, it goes nowhere.
That would have been amazing, like watching her body and face change over time as she becomes like Dren. That would have been awesome. That would have been a better movie. It's like District 9 when he becomes an alien. It's the same idea where something should have happened from that, right? Like something should have been more than just, because he gives her like a shot or something, right? Like an antidote or something. And they never explain what it did or what it was. That's a weird scene.
I feel like there's a lot of that in this movie, the not explaining things. And I think that goes back to I like science.
Yeah, that goes way back to I like science.
Because, and I'm not saying I'm an expert on everything I've ever written about, but, if you just say I like science, I don't know, people I know that are really into science don't say that. So, I like beer. No, yeah.
So if you wrote this movie, what would you have named Dren?
Oh, that is a good question.
That's a fun question. Sigourney. No,
Sigourney.
Fuck stick.
Oh my gosh. Flounder.
I'm gonna go with Sebastian. No,
I'm going with Flounder because of the way her eyes are set. Because they're so, it gives you the impression early on that she probably has like 360-degree vision, kind of like the I forgot what lizard it is that can actually rotate their eyes. But it gives you that sense because they're so wide set that she can see 180 degrees with one eye and another 180 degrees with the other. So there's no way you can surprise her. Because she has a lot of these defense mechanisms set in to where, she should be able to see behind herself to prevent a predator from attacking, because she has no predator DNA or traits put into the DNA that makes her up, which is why that tail is just for defense. It's not to actually attack, which it's weird because that's what she does with the cat. She fucking attacks the cat. She doesn't use it for defense.
Yeah.
I literally have no idea what I would name it. It wouldn't be Dren, I know that, but
I'm not saying anything because I don't want to get sued.
I'd go with Crod. Crod is dork backwards.
Good Lord.
But then I'd have to think of an acronym for dork to match the movie, right?
I just want to say, it's not like he was good at naming things. I mean,
the names are terrible.
Elsa, now Elsa's everywhere, right? But Elsa's a weird name. But Clive is, if there's anybody listening to this named Clive, I'm so sorry.
Clive Owen's going to come kick your ass, man.
Ooh. On multiple levels. But yeah, I would never name a main character Clive. It's very hard in a movie to understand his name. And it doesn't work like when you're yelling things, like Clive, help, It's just,
you almost have to say
strange.
it with an accent.
Try it. Let me hear it.
I would say it sounds like it should have an accent. It's like Clive, Clive. It's very British, wearing an ascot and a bowler hat type name.
Can you imagine if that would have been Adrian Brody's wardrobe instead?
Oh, can we talk about his wardrobe for a second?
Oh yeah,
he looks like the game programmer from Grandma's Boy.
I bring nothing to the table. That's what his t-shirt says. And it's interesting because his DNA is not in the child because he brought nothing to the table.
Do you think they chose the name Clive because the word live and live is in the name Clive, or is that too much credit being given to that?
I think that's more thought than went into the name.
Or the whole movie.
I think it was literally, let's call him Clive for now. We'll change it later.
And they never did.
Yeah.
His whole look was very concerning to me. And the way the apartment was decorated, like it followed in line with his personality, but I felt like nothing about that life had anything to do with Elsa.
Which
You know what I
makes
mean?
sense though. Like she doesn't really have a past that she's willing to share, you know?
And she's
And
always
I
looking for
don't
somewhere else to live too.
What was
right?
her dad like? Did her dad die in a chimney during Christmas?
her dad was half tiger. You didn't know that. But oh man. Yeah, go back to Gremlins and just listen to that part, everybody. That's yeah.
Is this in the same universe as Gremlins?
Everything's in the same universe
It's
as
a shared
Gremlins.
universe.
But no, man, I feel like Elsa was probably trying to hide her past, so it makes sense that she doesn't really decorate. But she also, I don't know, like you said, like she keeps trying to go somewhere else, right? So maybe she's like, this isn't my house. I'm not decorating it, or my apartment. I'm not decorating it. You know, like when we get a place, then I will. I'll throw a mattress on the floor and it'll feel like home.
She looks disarming, but by the end of the movie, you're like, this is a crazy person.
Yes.
This person's insane. Yeah. This movie. This movie haunts me. It haunts me, you guys. Like I can't get away from it. I've tried.
We're gonna splice Thomas's DNA with the DVD later today, so we'll see how that turns out.
Can you splice me out of the podcast?
It's just gonna be these long pauses.
No, I recorded my part weeks ago. You guys are just splicing your audio around what I've already said.
Oh man, I keep joking that I want to do that sometime. Like just bring on a silent guest, like Michael Myers, and then just like ask him questions, and then just not do anything. Just be blank. I think my listeners would probably stop listening at that point, so we won't do that. But
I thought it'd be funny you already did the Parasite episode, but to have like a Korean translator there with you.
It'd be
You're
great.
just repeating everything you've already said, but in Korean for that audience.
I know you guys already downloaded this, but everyone has to watch the YouTube video for the subtitles. So, I have burned through all of my notes. Do either of you have anything left?
I do not. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could talk about this movie forever, but I won't.
Join us for the next 4 weeks straight as Thomas keeps talking about this movie.
No, 51 weeks, man. He said it's once a week he thinks about this. 51
This is
more
true.
weeks.
This time around, I counted how many times Elsa said the word imprint. Because, why not? It was 4. She said the word imprint 4 times. There are so many words in this movie that are just buzzwords, right? Things that mean something to somebody who doesn't know anything about science. Like it sounds.
I like science.
I like science. I like talking about it. I like making movies. Let's make a movie about science.
He got a bigger paycheck from this than I have, so good for him.
But yeah, thank you guys for indulging me in doing Splice.
Absolutely.
Of
Thank you
course.
for coming on the show. Yeah. Are you currently, you have the new season, if you will, of your show coming out? Do you have anything else going on?
No, I mean, I just want to say, like, if you haven't seen Splice, definitely check it out and watch as much of it as you can stomach. And if you can't make it to the end, skip forward to the last 20 minutes and just go for a ride.
Yeah. Just fast forward until you see Adrian Brody having sex and just watch from then on. It's great. Let me rephrase it. Having sex with the creature, not with
Elsa.
Not with Elsa.
The seduction of Adrian Brody by the alien.
No, I do have one more thing to say. Why does Adrian Brody, like, he barely even opens his pants to have sex with Elsa, right? And then he starts fucking Dren that way as well. But then he takes off his shirt. Like, does he have some kind of weird thing going on where he, like, only wants, like, a little, like 6-inch area around his penis exposed during sex? It's fucking weird.
It had to have been in his contract. He was like, you know what? I've won an Oscar. I'm only zipping down. Nothing's coming off.
It's very, very odd to me. So we'll end there.
He was like, you know what? No. I'll fuck the alien. That's not a problem. But I'm not going to show a lot of skin.
So what is this, Game of Thrones?
Oh, man.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen Splice, go for it. This movie, like I said, it haunts me, but I think about it so often, which also means that I think about James a lot because, we experienced this together.
Oh, baby.
The Splice panel was my fourth favorite thing from that day. So there are other stories from that day for a different time, but this movie is just a crazy thing.
And if you've enjoyed this episode with Thomas, let us know, and we'll bring him on like 23 more fucking times this year. All right.
But not about Splice, not for Splice.
We might. You never know. We'll find something to talk about.
Splice if it comes up.
All right. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, Thomas, thank you for joining us. Everybody else, we will see you next week on thenecronama.com. As always, I am James Sabata.
And I am Don Guillory, or am I?